Hello, Passion Break peeps. We are back. Obviously, Tracy's not here with us. She is stampeding out in Calgary, but I have a very, very special guest that I want to introduce you all to. Before we do, as usual, pop your names in the chats. Let us know where you're from. Let us know that you're here. We're excited about this conversation. Hey, Carol Jean, nice to see you. All right, so let's get into this. I want to introduce you to this beautiful human right here. Her name is Catherine Tanaka. She is a very dear friend of mine, and she's also a fitness expert, a mindset coach. I'm going to read it because I don't want to miss any points, and a host of the Body Project podcast. She's your guide to unlocking the true potential of your body and your mind. Catherine believes your body is a temple and your health is the ultimate wealth. With a unique blend of fitness, mindset, and soul set, she empowers you to become the best version of yourself. But her expertise goes beyond fitness alone. As a dedicated mindset coach, she specializes in helping busy working women look and feel their absolute best. By prioritizing fitness as a physical practice, she ensures you can achieve your goals while thriving in a demanding lifestyle, winning in all aspects of your life. This woman has been such a powerhouse for me, guys. She's been featured on Global TV's morning show. She has been a guest on the Business Leadership Podcast. Catherine speaks to many aspects of health and wellness. And she's also been a trainer and a coach in places like the Yorkville Club, Chorus Entertainment, Google headquarters, and University Health Network. So it's not only me that loves her. There's a host of other people that love her too. So I know I said a lot, Catherine, but do you want to add anything about who you are?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Kira. Thank you so much for the intro. And thank you for having me on the Passion Center. I mean, I feel like a 30-minute show does not do you and I justice to get into the depth of passion and into health and wealth. But tonight will be a little taste of that. So I'm excited.
It will be a little taste of that. And today we're going to be covering a conversation that I got to tell you, it's been the pain of my existence, right? This whole idea of resisting the things that you've got to do to move through and get to the big goals or get to your passion. I know this passion journey for me has been one part vision and one part having to fight through myself, my mindset, my own physical obstructions, so that I can reach past that. And, you know, it dawned on me that a lot of the features that we have in our human design, they're not to be discarded or discredited. There might be a purpose there. And when I started to explore the purpose, what I just started to notice and to see was that maybe it's supposed to be there. You know, like when we are, for example, and Catherine, you can speak to this, but when we're weight training, and resistance comes online. That is the opposing force that helps us to shape those muscles, to stretch past our boundaries, to be able to like reach fuller and fuller potentials inside of what we're capable of doing. So I want to get into the science of resistance. Catherine, can you guide us through that for a little bit?
Yeah, well, resistance from a mindset perspective is a really interesting concept, right? Because it really is our subconscious or our psyche coming into protective mode and saying, hang on a second, there's a challenge that is presented and there are a lot of things that go on, right? Your system reacts, right? Nervousness or feeling of like unease because you're out of your comfort zone. But something that's so interesting in the physiology space, in fitness, and in, the fitness mindset space is that the only place mostly that you put yourself in these challenging places on purpose is in fitness. That's why it's oftentimes, Kira, having your own resistance to fitness, it's uncomfortable, right?
That's like a hero response. I cannot. Yeah.
But here's the thing. In fitness, when you put yourself in a stressful situation, when you do the things that are hard, right? Even from a physiological standpoint, right? You purposely put your system under stress, right? We raise our heart rate, we increase our resistance in weights, right? Strength training. And here's what happens. You're actually teaching your nervous system, Kira, that it is safe because you're pushing yourself and teaching your system that you can come down to baseline, right? Your resting heart rate, right? This is why when you're in fitness situations, you push yourself, right? And they're always like, okay, let's see how quickly you can do yourself down to your baseline heart rate.
Right.
So resistance training is this training ground for life. How do we use this opposing force and look at it as a way that we have the opportunity to challenge ourselves so that we can become more resilient in face of life stressors in work, in relationships, in business, all the rest.
Now, what I love about what you've just pointed us to is this entire idea. Hi, guys. I'm also seeing you in the chats. Kareem, hey, welcome. Rahul, Robert, you're in. Thanks for joining us. We've got Catherine, and we're talking about the art of resistance in the face of our adversity. So I love that you are talking about controlled adversity. And we're looking at it from the body active. And what I'm really encouraged by is the shaping of our nervous system and our neurology. So obviously neuroplasticity, when you put yourself in pressurized experiences or you're doing things or you're creating new habits, you're actually changing your brain.
Yes.
And what I love about what you've just said is that it's almost like when you put yourself in this controlled setting where you get to have incremental levels of adversity and you can push through adversity, it's like you're creating trust with yourself. You're creating trust with yourself and you're creating trust with your environment. And you're saying that that even though I'm in this challenge, I can get through this challenge successfully, and then I'm going to get some kind of positive reward at the end, whether that's like a really nice looking bicep, or whether that's like I've just created more strength in my body and I feel stronger. And I almost want to like marry that into when we're achieving big goals for ourselves, or when we're putting ourselves on the line or building a business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hard things, challenges that come up in that. And I feel as though when you strengthen your body, you strengthen your mind. And it makes your appetite to face these unknown challenges, you just have built a better repertoire with yourself, I think. A more trusting relationship with you, your body, and what you're capable of doing, so that you're more likely to persevere. You're more likely to push through, and you're less likely to just throw your hands up in the air, give up, and say, oh, well, I failed. I guess I can't do that.
Right.
So,
And can I just comment on that? Because you made a point of like building a nice bicep. The beauty of resistance training and fitness is more than just the external, right? It actually is, from a cellular standpoint, this biofeedback loop that happens. So not only is it that we get this external reward, whether it's fat loss or strength or aesthetics or just feeling better, but from a cellular level, we are just building on those foundations. And here is where it gets really interesting. Because it becomes a practice, right? The physical practice of getting fitter, right? This practice converts into business, converts to, startup companies. It really is that mantra of I can do hard things. And it's coming back to, I don't want to say controlling that biology, but getting into that space from a mindset perspective of I can do this one step in front of the other. And as soon as you're met with resistance, it's a practice, right? Because just like getting in the gym and squatting, or even going for, a 1 kilometer walk run when you haven't been running, it is hard, right? But it is reps and sets in the gym that build that strength, just like in business, right? When you show up live for the first time in front of an audience where you're trying to build a brand, whether it's, a personal brand like mine or a global brand like yours, it really is going and meeting up against that resistance and calming your nervous system, reminding ourselves, right, in business that we're actually doing this to serve a bigger purpose here. Just like when you're doing your reps and sets, it's more a bigger purpose than just a cute bicep or nice glutes. It is for our health and well-being, and for, the resistance, being able to persevere and overcome is really for the well-being of your business, your relationships, all the interactions.
You just gave me so much goosebumps when you said that. And as you were speaking, it was putting me into personal dynamics. And I'll walk with me in this. So when you're building a relationship, the most trusted relationships that we have don't become that way because things are nice and easy and we have only good things. It be Your trust in that relationship and the quality of that relationship deepens when you can go through the hard things and
100%.
then reconcile the hard things so that you're building trust. That's actually the true recipe for a great relationship.
Yep.
It's knowing how to navigate those hard things and coming back. So it almost feels like in all of these areas of our life, whether that's like fitness and the biological response, or whether that's doing the hard things in the business, or whether that's doing the hard things in the relationships that we have, which are probably the most hard things. It's really about how do we shape that part of our lives where instead of avoiding the resistance or instead of procrastinating with the resistance sometimes, how do you break through that when it's not something that's physically there? So I know the relationship between me and a weight, right? If
Mhm.
it's really hard, I know that I have to move it in a certain way and I have to build that, and I expect it to be hard and I expect it to be challenging. Um, but what happens right before we get to the gym? Where we're like, oh, we got to make that step forward to actually be in the space where we're doing that. And it's the last thing we want to do. What are some of the things that, or the practices that we can keep in mind to support our ability to lean into the resistance more?
I've got to tell you, I really love this conversation because this is the meats and potato of what I really support my clients in from a mindset perspective, right? Because, and this is why for me, fitness was the playground that really allowed me to become empowered, in my teenage years and build a business that I have. And
Yes.
it's because the physicality is something we can all relate to. Like you said, you see the weight and you can understand that relationship and the resistance there. But like you said, when it is, not ethereal, but when it is from a mindset perspective of having to get up and make those 100 calls, having to get up and deal with those 100 emails, or having to get out and, pound the pavement in a business, it becomes this resistance that's not physical, right? But here is where the mindset piece comes in and why this is so perfect. Because it's just that conversation of saying, I'm not going to start today. I'm going to start Monday. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to go to the gym because I'm just too tired. Like all those excuses, right?
Right.
You
Back
know, it's
doors.
right. It's my
I have a
husband's fault.
million back doors, by the
Oh,
way.
totally. And
Yeah.
all those back doors, but like even just in the fitness perspective, my husband's being jerk. My boss worked me too hard today. It's too late. It's too early. All the excuses. This is where we have an opportunity to step into that CEO version of ourselves, right? I train a
Mhm.
lot of executive women, lawyers, doctors, all the rest, and they boss it in a lot of parts of their lives. But when it comes to their fitness and their health, they leave themselves on the back burner, right? And so this is really an invitation for us to witness those excuses, because
Right.
at the end of the day there are many, many reasons, but if it is preventing you from moving forward in your passion, moving forward in your business, moving forward in those relationships that are going to make a difference in your life, moving forward in your health, in your self-care, in your self-wealth,
Yeah.
right? It
Yes.
is exactly this, witnessing what agendas come up from that smaller version or that ego self or that comfortable self, right? If you remember grade 10 biology, Pavlov, right? He was the scientist that every time he would feed a dog food and ring a bell, the dog would salivate. Natural. There's a plate of beautiful food in front of you.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
they found was every time they rang the bell without the food being presented, the dog would salivate. Classic conditioning. If our lives, which is made up of these habits and conditions that we've put in place that make our life comfortable, all the things, when we move against that, that is resistance.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, go. Yes.
No, 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 you go. I want you to finish that off.
And so, to answer your question in a really long, rounded way,
Yeah.
if we can witness that and say, hang on, I see you agendas, I see you excuses, I see this list of things, but today I'm going to choose this,
Yeah.
right? Today I'm going to choose to show up this way. I'm going to choose to do this. It's one step at a time. Today I'm going to show up and go to the gym for 20 minutes for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like James Clear talks about atomic habits. How
Yes.
can we break outside of those classic conditioned responses and old
Mhm.
habits and really invite new ones in?
What I'm listening in as you speak, Catherine, is where the weights are what we use in the gym to really strengthen those muscles and condition our bodies.
Yes.
It's like the choices in our life is actually the weight. So how can we become more intentional with our choices? How do we pattern interrupt when
Yes.
we are used to picking and choosing one thing? How do we start developing the habit to choose differently? And even have the opportunity to think that we can choose differently, because sometimes I get it, it's hard when we're in the busy, when we're in the noise, when we're in the mess. And just like you, man, like my clients that are in that executive space, there is a whole bunch of pressure that's being put in. They are lighting out fires all the time, and they are constantly in the state of drive and sometimes overdrive. So they're already in action.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I try to encourage is how do you break the pattern of action so that you can create more areas of intention?
Yes.
And because action and being busy can be a
Yes.
pattern we get stuck into, which doesn't really help us to feel passion because, hint, passion requires intention.
Yes.
We have to feel autonomous. We have to be able to be choosing our mastery so that we can enable and elicit those types of experiences and feelings internally that drive us to be our best or to allow us to feel and experience our best.
Yes.
And so inside of that, making intentional choices, what are some of your best recommendations to have as a healthy habit tool for when we're, stuck in the, I really feel like sitting down and, I don't know, watching this wall instead of working out?
So one of the things that I think is a really powerful practice is starting your day with that intention, right? I always tell my clients, if you can win your morning, you can win your day, right? Meaning putting things in place that you know are going to support you, right?
Mhm.
For example, in the fitness world, but this actually trickles down into all aspects of your life. If you can get up before you know you need to and have the time and space, as opposed to like alarm goes off at 7, you're off to the races, you're running around after kids, you're trying to shove breakfast in your mouth and get to the office on time, whatever it is, then you're already behind the 8 ball. Right.
Yes.
But if you can actually the day before set the intention and say, I'm going to go to bed early and make sure I have my 7.5 hours of sleep so that I can win my day, right? And
Mhm.
you wake up and set the precedence to say, I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to nourish my body well. My kids are going to be good. I'm not going to be a stress case starting out. And I'm going to be able to wake up my kids well. And then I can go to the office with that clear intention, right? Even if it's a 10-minute walk, a 10-minute workout, you can win your morning. And when you win your morning and you come in with this intentionality of ease, of focus, of drive, whatever it is from a business standpoint, you can then allow that to kind of be the butter or the cream on everything else, right?
Mhm.
And really this allows you to step into each day with that clear focus and intentionality, and then you can break that down into the macro and the micro of, like you were saying, looking at, if you're an executive, at a calendar and being like, okay, I am busy, but where in this can I actually make space to things that move the dial forward? We've spoken about this on a personal business level, right? How are we moving the dial forward? We can really be busy, right? Especially as, a business owner, you yourself as a business owner, we are great at, doing all the things. But if you don't understand your KPIs, just like in a gym, you can't
Right.
just show up for the gym and expect like, okay, if I've got a goal of 10 pounds and looking this way, you can't just show up and like wander around. It has to have some clear goals and objectives and
What do you
strategies
mean
that
we
you,
can't do that?
right?
Jeez. Yeah,
But
yeah.
just like building a business, you need clear goals, KPIs, and strategy in order to get the results that you desire.
I love what Robert just said. Intentionally choosing yourself is a non-negotiable.
100%.
And I think this has been, you know, this was hard for me in my earlier years, especially professionally and growing my professional career, because you're kind of forced to be in a service capacity and you're forced to service with your doing. So the
Yeah.
things that you're actively doing almost muddles in with your self-worth and your self-value. So it's like, but I am focusing on myself when I'm focusing on my work because my work is myself. And there's this whole, narrative of flawed assumptions about who we are and who we are in relationship to our work. So, in terms of picking the self, what, in your opinion, does that mean? What does choosing yourself mean above all the other responsibilities that you have? And you're a busy mom. You got two young kids. You're a wife. You own a business. You run a business, and you have responsibilities with your clients, and you have a lot of other projects that you're working on. And I'd love for you to tell us about one of them later on. But yes, so you're an example inside of this domain. How do you choose Catherine? What does that even mean?
Yeah. Well, we all know the classic example of, we are great at satisfying our jobs, whether it is our boss or whatever else, right? We're amazing to show up for our partners. We're amazing to show up for our kids, amazing to show up for our neighbors, our parents, our friends, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if you cannot be the one to generate that, then you're going to fall flat on all those commitments, right? And I know, just like yourself dealing with executives and supporting them on their passion and figuring that out, from a fitness standpoint, I really support busy women and men to optimize themselves because it's only that you can pour from a full cup, right?
Absolutely.
And if your cup is empty, and exactly like, Robert said, I really coach my clients to bring those non-negotiables. Actually, a client of mine today said, I'm going to make a shirt. What would Catherine do? And non-negotiables, because it's true. Just like Janet was saying, right? If you're not putting in the intentionality, if you're not doing it for yourself first, then you're going to be burnt out when it shows up for others. And here's the thing, right? We all have an amazing capacity, especially, doing a live on LinkedIn. We have all business professionals here, executives and all the rest. We have this capacity to push. But what I have found, especially with women in our 40s and 50s, is that burnout. And you can speak to burnout. You're an expert at this too, right? Burnout is so incredibly high because the stress markers in our lives are incredible to pressure us, right? This resistance, right? But if you can learn that resiliency from a self-care perspective and making sure you fill up your cup with those non-negotiables and say, you know what? I'm going to take 20 minutes for myself this morning to make sure that I have a great workout. So I have clarity and I've taken care of myself first, right? Or I'm going to spend 40 minutes this weekend to make sure I have groceries in my fridge so I'm not literally ordering Uber Eats or eating crap out of the cupboard every single minute. That is going to support you. Those are non-negotiables. And it even be a step forward to say, you know what? I need 5 minutes. And even if someone says, oh, so-and-so wants a quick meeting with you, that you're like, you can schedule in my schedule where there's openings, but I need to take this 5 minutes, because it's not so much it's intentionality around it, right? Because everyone's like, well, you only work out for 30 to 40 minutes, 3, 4, 5 times a week. But
Right.
these practices you can bring into every single moment, right? How can you, on your drive to work or your subway down to the office, take a breath? How
Mm,
can you disengage from your cell phone for a moment and not get into that scroll hole and actually become present, right?
mm.
Nervous system regulation, the beauty of doing it physically is that it teaches you how to do it on all other aspects, right?
Absolutely. And the nervous system needs physicality. It,
Yes.
they are very much intertwined because the body has a language and the body communicates through movement. So if you are, and movement could be movement of emotions or it can be movement of body,
Yep.
what Catherine will move you through. And sometimes they can intersect. So if I'm moving my body, I can move my emotions. And if I move my emotions, it can help me to move my body. So it's this beautiful interconnected holistic approach to really understanding and honoring how our body operates and how we can treat and nurture that so that we can get the best, most optimal results. Because listen, passion is energy.
Yes.
And if we're not able to connect back to what supports that, then we're never going to actually experience the fullness that we can experience when it comes to the passion conversation. What I
100%.
love about what you were discussing is, and I say it a little differently, but it's all about how do you protect your energy, right?
Yes.
Because we have a certain amount of energy to execute the day on. We can create, but that creation takes all of the practices that Catherine was just talking about.
Yep.
And if we're not creating that energy, we're using stale energy to move through our life with. And that's actually what causes burnout, because
Yep.
you're constantly leaking the energy without supporting the input of energy. It's like a car. Eventually it's going to die. If you, right, you need gas. It's just, that's the way it works. So I also love the idea. I want to take it back to this idea of winning your morning. And if you're not a morning person, then how can we park buckets of time in a day, right? So maybe it's just how long do you need? Really depends on you. For me, I started with 15 minutes because that's literally all I had.
Yep.
And in that 15 minutes, it's amazing how I scrunched in 2-minute exercises to make it feel like it was 2 hours in exercise.
Yep.
2 minutes can feel very long when you're in relationship to the time and you're fully present. So I think it's just like that practice of being present and finding what works for you. So what bucket of time consistently in your day can you dedicate to just you and being able to generate and protect that energy?
Yeah. And just if I can speak to that just quickly, protecting your energy is in so many facets, not just your passion, but like everything is energy in motion, your emotions, your physicality, all of it. Boundaries, as you know, right, are so, so important. And even not just boundaries with others, but boundaries with yourself, right? So just as much as I work on winning my morning, I also work on winning my nights because it's such a symbiotic relationships, right?
Yeah,
That
you
if you
can't have
can
a good morning without a good night.
totally, right? But if you can hold boundaries for yourself, like we don't check emails after a certain time, we stop eating at a certain time, we turn this off at a certain time, we just shut things down for ourselves. Holding boundaries allows for that space to breathe, that you can literally recharge your batteries so that energetically you're more available for yourself to hold your non-negotiables and then for others in business, in life, and all the rest.
So interesting on that note, I love working at night, or I used to. I've had to hold a boundary on this. And I love working at night because it's like things are dark, no one's around there bothering me. I'm not exactly the earliest morning person. So, that's where my creative juices got a chance to flow. But what I realized was that I stayed not a morning person because I was so committed to being a night person until just recently when that switched for me. And what I'm learning and realizing, because I'm updating the way I manage my energy even now. And I'm updating it in that I'm trying to find my clock and my rhythm and where I want to commit to. And
Mm,
truthfully, I do like the energy of an early morning. In my full truth, I do like that energy. There's something really powerful about waking up at a certain time and just having that kind of feeling of stillness or
mhm,
seeing the sunrise or actually being present to those things. For me, I find it to be a very spiritual experience. I don't know if you
mhm,
feel the same way. But so in this recrafting, I'm noticing some resistance because the pattern is so heavy on this other side of my neuronal network. It's so used to this one way of being that when you try to trick it, it's like, "Ooh, I like this, but you know what? Why don't we like this more?" Right? Like that stuff starts to happen.
yep.
So, how would you
Resistance.
yeah, how would you support that kind of like, yeah, there's resistance and there's temptation. And I think the resistance is like, oh, I feel resistance like, oh, there's something there I don't want to do or I'm avoiding doing and I know I have to do it. Right. And then there's temptation of like, this is really pleasurable and I want to stay in the pleasure, which could just be the comfort too. I'm not sure. But what would you say to that?
So here's the thing. I mean, specifically to speaking to that, some
Mm-hmm.
people function really well at night. But if you can have clear boundaries with yourself to say, okay, I still require 7 hours of sleep. Look, the science is unequivocal, right? There is such a small percentage of people that can function on less than 7 hours.
Yeah.
And we all know that, right? And the science is all over the place about the importance of sleep for brain regeneration, for body regeneration, for longevity, all the things, right? And so I would say, as long as you can hold a boundary with yourself, knowing that you're going to be able to do those 7 hours, if you're an at night owl and that's where you function best, so be it. However, if you know that that's not optimal and there's a different way for you, you start shifting slowly, right? Because here's the thing, your system, exactly like you said, is going to present resistance like, hang on a second, this is not what we do. What do you mean we're doing this new thing? So if you can also, right? It's just like lifting weights. You're not going to all of a sudden squat 200 pounds and be like, okay, we're going to do this. Your body's like, absolutely not. Right. So how can you retrain that psyche? How can you retrain those habits and say, you're okay. We're going to do this. You're okay. We're going to do this and start moving, shifting that time. And also, recognizing, just like you said, recognizing how peaceful it is in the morning, how much more productive you are, allows that biofeedback loop to say, hey, this is actually good for us. It's
Yeah.
just like the fitness piece. Hey, this is actually good for us. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling more energized, right? If you can give yourself those reward mechanisms, be it internally or externally, it allows you to then put things in place to say, hey, this is, I'm able to do this and keep this in place, right?
Now, there's a science to that as well, because inside of the neural components of our brain, I mean, we know this, our brain is essentially our experience map. And everything that we've experienced habitually, so forth, it creates certain neural pathways. And some people use them as the track analogy, right? You're laying tracks in the snow. I don't like that. They're almost like relationships. You've created friendships inside of your brain that says, "Hey, we like each other and we want to be with each other more and more and more and more and more." And the
Yes.
more times you've done it, the more stable that bond. So they
Yes.
don't want to break up. So the only way that you can actually create change inside of that pattern is to create a new friendship, a new relationship. And that friendship has to be one to many. It can't be one to one to create it stronger. So for me, it's like, what are all of the, what is the positivity stacking of and the benefits that are around, let's say, an early morning riser? And by all means, I'm not saying that waking up early or waking up late is right or wrong. I actually don't believe that. I think it's how your body generates and what's better for you.
Yep.
But I'm experimenting because I love doing this to myself. So it's like, how can I make all of these friends start to connect with each other to say this is a good experience, let's do more. But I love your insights on, well, maybe there is a remembering that I can forcefully do for a little while, where I carve in some space and I remind myself of why I want to do this. Is
Yeah.
there a deeper meaning for why this is something that helps me in the achieving of my goals, or in the vision that I have for myself, or in the vision that I want to have? And how can I marry those things together to give it a nice meaning boost, right?
Yep.
I won't get passionate about it if it doesn't mean something, if it's just this trickery I'm trying to do with my body, or if it's just like, oh yeah, this is this nice to have playful thing that I'm doing. The commitment won't be the same, I don't think.
Yeah. But this is the beauty of places like the Passion Center, you as a coach and me as a coach, right? Because when there are things that we need support on and we automatically go back into the resistance and into the old patterns, having the accountability and the guidance of somebody like you or somebody like me in the fitness and mindset space to really shake up those parameters that we've put on ourselves and
Yeah.
really hold a light to say, how are your boundaries? How are your self-care? Are you actually doing the things that are going to make a difference, and not just this area that you're feeling lack in, but that really allow for all areas to thrive, right? And
Mm.
this is the beauty of, executive coaching, passion center coaching, fitness mindset coaching. It really allows us to support our clients to shift the dial, and not just for a moment, because we all know in the fitness space, we all know we can move more, we all know we can eat a little better, drink a little less, have a little bit less, treats. But the longevity of that also often falls flat because we get back into those areas of resistance, right? Old habits and the old conditioned patterns that pull us back, right? And so in order to break that, it takes something. There are some people that are motivated and are able to go, but oftentimes having a guide in anything. I mean, I have a business coach, I have my own fitness coach right now, all the things allows us to overcome our own limiting beliefs and our own limitations so that we can flourish beyond that.
And what I love, and we're going to have to cut this off real soon
Yes.
because we're a little bit over and we're jumping into the lab. For those of you that are ready, just get back in there, go to the regular link that we've got, and I'll see you there in just a minute. But on that note, I think it's the difference of how do we create sustainable, optimized change.
Mhm.
And the sustainable, optimized change, you got it. You need a team around you. I'm sorry, but an athlete doesn't become an athlete on their
Correct.
own. It doesn't matter how much motivation they have. It doesn't matter how much passion they have for the sport. It doesn't matter how much they know and how much experience they have.
Mhm.
They need people to pressure test them constantly so
Always.
that they're increasing and moving that dial. So, yeah, win for coaches. I really, really believe in having a support system around you, no matter what that looks like. And to leave this off, I want to actually turn to Janet's comment a little earlier. And she said that it helps to challenge our social notion of selfish which I often hear against self-care, selfish needs of the self. We are not being negative in any way in caring for ourselves. That is, I believe, a social ideal that was given to us, and I'm a big fan of returning that gift.
Yep. 100%. I completely agree, Janet. And this is especially for women. You know, I cannot speak to men, but that reclamation of self for women is really powerful. And, you know, like I've spoken to you before, this is why I do retreats outside of Toronto. It really welcomes women, especially to step outside of their comfort zone and this reclamation, this opportunity to shine the light on themselves and say, what do I actually need? Right. And that's okay. That opportunity to say yes to myself, right? That non-negotiable, and slowly building a list. Because if you have people that are, you know, excellent at giving to everybody and literally leaving nothing for themselves, you need to regain that self-trust, that self-composure, and that empowered self so that you can allow all aspects of your life to thrive.
I love that. I'm just such a fan of this idea of thriving, right? I want to leave everyone with this. Your body was designed to thrive in very specific environments. And so I think our jobs are to learn what are those environments that help and support our bodies to thrive as the CEOs of our bodies and our lives. And it gives us that opportunity to really, really dig in. So loved this conversation, Catherine. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your gift, your knowledge, your wisdom, your passion. And I can't wait for those of you that get to do a private session Q&A with Catherine right now. Meet us in the lab. We will see you there. Until next week, folks, have an amazing, passionate rest of your week. Bye for now.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.